In the gloom of Eldridge Hollow, St. Emilia's church stood as a monument to forgotten horrors. Local legends whispered of a night when the congregation vanished, leaving only their echoes behind. Ethan, an avid explorer of haunted locales, gathered his friends Mia and Joel for a daring night inside the church, driven by stories of spectral chants and unsettling cries that emanated from its aged walls. As they pushed open the heavy wooden door, it shut behind them with a thunderous bang, plunging them into near darkness. Their flashlights cut through the black, revealing pews coated in decades of dust and cobwebs that hung like curtains from the ceiling. In the sacristy, Ethan discovered a tattered journal belonging to Father O'Hare, the church's last priest. The entries were frantic, detailing increasing disturbances during services, shadows moving of their own volition, and a cold that seeped into the bones of the faithful. As they explored deeper, the faint sound of singing began to permeate the air, a chilling melody that seemed both beautiful and horrifying. The music drew them to the sealed choir loft. Forced open, the door revealed scattered sheet music that fluttered as if recently disturbed. Intrigued and terrified, Ethan read aloud from the journal about a ritual meant to confront the church's demon. The trio, fueled by a mix of fear and excitement, decided to replicate the ritual, hoping to meet the ghostly choir and put an end to the hauntings. As they chanted the ancient Latin phrases, the air grew icy, and their candles flickered out one by one. From the shadows, a form began to materialize, a grotesque figure with hollow eyes that seemed to weep black tears, its mouth twisted in a silent scream. The singing intensified, now clearly coming from the figure, its voice a cacophony of despair. The walls of the church seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and the very stone beneath their feet trembled. In a panic, they fled towards the entrance, the church now alive with the sounds of a congregation that wasn't there. Weeping, praying, and screaming filled their ears. Behind them, the figure gave chase, a blur of darkness and malice. At the threshold of the church, Ethan remembered the closing words of the ritual, meant to banish the demon. Shouting the final incantation, the doors burst open, releasing them into the cold night air. Outside, the church quieted, but the night was forever changed for them. The experience bonded them deeply, yet each knew that something within them had altered. Shadows linger longer, and the cold feels more biting. Weeks later, Ethan received an old, cryptic note with a simple message: "It is not over." The handwriting matched that of Father O'Hare's journal. Despite their fear, they knew they would return, drawn back to the mystery and darkness of St. Emilia's S. As they prepared for their return, Ethan, Mia, and Joel gathered more information on the church's history, uncovering tales of lost exorcisms and rituals that spoke of a deeper darkness than they had imagined. Their return to St. Emilia's was marked by an oppressive atmosphere, thicker and more foreboding than before. They entered with new resolve, carrying powerful symbols of protection and a determination to end the haunting for good. In the choir loft, they set up a circle of salt and lit candles at each point, a protective barrier against the dark. As the entity approached, the air filled with the sound of a discordant organ playing by unseen hands. With the demon advancing, they repeated the ritual with greater intensity. Light burst forth from the makeshift altar, engulfing the shadow. A scream, both triumphant and pained, echoed through the church as the entity dissolved into nothingness. As dawn broke, the church felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. They left St. Emilia's behind, hopeful that the darkness was gone. Yet in their hearts, they felt the echo of the night, a reminder that some places hold deeper secrets than others. Sarah, an experienced paranormal investigator, had always been fascinated by stories of haunted locations, but St. Emilia's church, with its inexplicable midnight bell tolls, captivated her more than any other. The church's bell had been removed decades ago, yet residents nearby reported hearing it during foggy nights, each toll chilling to the soul. Upon arrival, Sarah unpacked her equipment meticulously. Infrared cameras, EVP recorders, thermal sensors, and a powerful directional microphone to capture any distant or faint sounds. The atmosphere was heavy, the air filled with the scent of moss and decay. As night fell, the surrounding woods grew unnaturally silent. Sarah set up her cameras pointing towards the bell tower and around the nave where the echo seemed strongest. She waited, the anticipation growing as midnight approached. Exactly at midnight, the sound of a bell filled the air, deep and resonant. It was impossible, yet unmistakably real. Sarah's equipment registered spikes in electromagnetic activity and sudden drops in temperature with each toll. Following the sound to the belfry, Sarah's thermal camera captured a fleeting image of a shadowy figure standing where the bell once hung. It appeared human yet distorted, as if made from the mist itself. In the belfry, amidst the debris and old bird nests, Sarah found the original bell clapper buried under a pile of rotted wood. Touching it sent a sharp, cold jolt through her, and she heard a whisper, "Free us." That night, Sarah dreamt of the church filled with its congregation, their faces twisted in terror as a dark cloud descended from the bell tower, engulfing them in shadow. She awoke to the sound of the bell tolling, the echo more desperate than ever. Beneath the choir loft, hidden by an old rug, Sarah discovered a door leading to a small room. Inside, the walls were covered with protective sigils and Latin inscriptions detailing a ritual for banishing evil spirits. Setting up her recording equipment in the ritual room, Sarah captured EVPs of whispered pleas for help and cries for salvation. The voices were numerous, overlapping, filled with sorrow and fear. Convinced she could end the haunting, Sarah gathered local plants and minerals mentioned in the inscriptions. She drew the sigils around the church, focusing on the bell tower and the hidden ritual room. As she began the ritual, the phantom bell tolled louder, and the shadowy figure reappeared more defined, its eyes hollow pools of despair. It moved towards her, the air around it shimmering with a dark aura. Sarah continued the ritual, her voice steady but her heart racing. The church shook as if in the grip of an earthquake, stones falling around her, dust clouding the air. The figure screamed, a sound that threatened to shatter her resolve. With a final desperate invocation, Sarah commanded the spirit to return to where it came from. The bell clapper glowed briefly, illuminating the room with a blinding light. The shadow screamed, its form disintegrating into the air, and then silence fell. The church was quiet, the oppressive feeling lifted. Sarah packed up her gear, her mind a whirl of emotions. She had recordings of everything, proof of the paranormal that would set her career apart. Reviewing her footage later, Sarah noticed an anomaly, a faint outline of the bell still visible in the tower during the day. Was the spirit truly gone, or had she only appeased it temporarily? Days later, as Sarah published her findings, she received an anonymous note. "It tolls for thee." Chilled, she wondered if her interaction with the bell had forged a deeper, unseen connection. Her return to St. Emilia's seemed inevitable, drawn back by the mystery and the unquiet spirit that might still linger. St. Emilia's Church, nestled on the outskirts of a sleepy village, was shrouded in legends of darkness. It was said that during a midnight mass long ago, shadows descended upon the congregation, swallowing them into oblivion. The church had stood empty since, a silent sentinel guarding its dark secrets. Alex, a horror novelist with a penchant for the supernatural, found the story of St. Emilia irresistible for his next book. Drawn to the mystery, he arrived at the church one overcast morning, his camera and notebook in hand, ready to delve into its shadows. The church doors groaned open, revealing an interior cloaked in darkness. Alex's flashlight barely cut through the murk, revealing pews dusted with age and an altar draped in shadows. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of mildew and decay. As Alex wandered the nave, the faint sound of murmuring echoed through the halls, as if the stone itself was whispering secrets. The statues of saints seemed to watch him, their expressions twisted in agony rather than devotion. Behind the altar, Alex found a hidden drawer containing a dusty journal. It belonged to the last priest of Saint Emilia A.S., who wrote of increasing dread among his flock and his futile efforts to protect them from the encroaching darkness. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the church floor. These shadows seemed to move independently, creeping along the walls and floors. As darkness enveloped the church, a palpable sense of unease grew stronger. Trapped inside by a sudden storm, Alex decided to stay the night. As darkness fell, the whispers grew into voices, pleading and desperate. They seemed to emanate from the very walls of the church. At midnight, the church was filled with a chilling presence. The shadows coalesced into a dense, dark mass near the altar, pulsating with a life of its own. Alex felt a cold dread as he realized he was not alone. The mass of shadows formed into human-like figures, each one an echo of the church's lost congregation. They surrounded Alex, their whispers becoming a cacophony of cries for help and release. Flicking through the priest's journal, Alex found mention of an ancient ritual intended to banish darkness and free captured spirits. It required a beacon of light, both literal and spiritual, to break the shadow's hold. Using mirrors and candles, Alex arranged a makeshift altar in the center of the nave, using the journal's instructions to reflect and amplify light. He began the ritual, his voice echoing in the vast, dark space. As he chanted, the mirrors reflected the candlelight, creating beams that pierced the darkness. The shadows writhed in agony, their forms flickering between this world and the next, struggling against the light. With one final powerful incantation, the light surged, washing over the shadows. The air was filled with a loud, collective sigh from the spectral figures as they dissipated, released from their eternal prison. Exhausted but alive, Alex watched the first light of dawn filter through the stained glass windows. The church felt peaceful, cleansed of the oppressive darkness that had once ruled it. Leaving St. Emilia's behind, Alex felt a mixture of triumph and sorrow. His experiences had given him material for a compelling story, but he knew the shadows he encountered were more than mere fiction. Weeks later, while writing his novel, Alex felt a cold draft sweep through his room, and a faint whisper brushed his ear. Despite the church's liberation, he wondered if part of the shadow had followed him home, a reminder that some darkness lingers even in the light. As his book hit the shelves, becoming a bestseller, Alex received an enigmatic message. The shadows grow again. Drawn once again into the mystery, he knew he must return to St. Emilia, perhaps this time not just as a writer, but as a keeper of the light.